right. You know what? There's something that's been bothering me ever since I started doing podcasts years ago. All podcasts do this. The number of the episode. Like,
Really?
what the hell is the point? Like, we're on episode, what are we, 7? 8?
Eight, yeah.
It's like, we don't have seasons. I mean, like, it's not like season 1, episode 5, and we need to know that.
You know, before you actually joined up, I did actually have a plan of, you know, learning the game. It's going to be kind of like our episode or our season 1, and then we're going to have actual like Crowfall Live, where we actually talk about pre-alpha and alpha, and then you know whatever it turns into.
So the game starts. How do you differentiate seasons then? Why is not season 1 listed up there anyway?
Look, can we get to that? But when we get to that,
well, I mean, like you have
bridges.
Some other podcasts. It's like, hey, welcome to podcast. Awesome.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Episode 256. Like, I care.
Yeah, it's almost like UFC fights. It's like, I mean, when are they going to reset the counter? Or are we going to be in like 15 years? UFC 2347.
How about the date? Did that never cross anybody's mind? The date?
Just do like a star date.
Just like we broadcasted on April 14th, 2015. Anyway, I'm Dragon. Valor's with me tonight. Lake's had to take some personal time off. He'll be back next week. This is Crowns and Crows, your Crowfall podcast. Time for the rundown. Last week, Valor had a beer with the Ace team. Your Kickstarter emails are going out. Check those spam folders. Don't lose it. Crowfall made another $10,000, and I don't think the cash shop is ready up and going with all the extra pretty stuff, so hopefully we can get that upticking a little bit more. We need a new developer there, I guess, is the next stretch goal. And the Crowfall world building system is slowly being made, and that's why Todd's been a little bit quiet on the forums. Now let's go over the topics of the show. 3 topics today. We kind of threw on one big one at the end because of today's update. Topic 1, what did Val learn during the meetup that he went to last week? He had a bunch of beers with some of the developers, and he saw a video of about an hour long with some Q&A sessions, stuff like that. We're going to hit this one up last on the show. I think we decided to do players' expectations for alpha. See, I'm being a professional, honest journalist by saying it's about alpha, not just player expectations. Or player expectations that alpha's going to suck, I guess. And we're all going to talk about the big update about Thralls. But first, let's talk about the meetup, because I think that's basically the first interview or first developer interaction outside the forums or Twitter that Ace has done.
Yeah, they you know, and this was not geared towards the general community. I mean, this was not geared towards players, and by no means did I have this set up for us at all. But what it was they were actually going out and interacting with the development community. That's what you know, Austin has, is a pretty healthy development community, and they do a lot of these sorts of presentations where, you know, hopefuls can go and learn from some of the more veteran developers, you know, and Blixtev. You know, and so for me, I saw the notice about it. They tweeted it, and I said, well, okay, well, I've got time. I can go down there and make it happen. And actually, I didn't have beers with them. I just had beers.
Okay.
They weren't drinking. Yeah, somebody had to be responsible that night. But you know what, guys? Here, let me link you. There's the full quote unquote transcript. I made sure to live tweet it. You know, I won't really touch on a lot of the things they covered in their presentation. There's a video of it, and then
there was a lot of stuff that they went over that we already know about and that we've covered. They kind of went over like the Kickstarter stuff. There's a lot of interesting tidbits in there about Thomas was playing EverQuest again for some crazy reason. I don't know why. He really likes the game, but it's some kind of interesting design principles in there, like items never had level restrictions on them. You got buffs that made you super powerful and made you have fun. And holy shit, there's no auction houses. What do we do? And some of that really kind of ties into when we started talking about Thrall. So if you go over cf.gg, you've got a Valor live tweet recap, and they got a video that Pan put out shortly afterwards. You can take a watch. I watched it again this morning, and there's some cool stuff on there. It's about an hour long. There's a lot of Kickstarter conversation, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
When you were there, were people just there to talk about how to start a Kickstarter and not really interested in the game itself, or just
Well,
because how the topic conversation went.
they actually got a decent little blend, which was surprising to me. I really expected it to be a lot more like when Gordon went to the game conference and spoke about Kickstarters, and everyone just almost specifically asked about, the business aspect.
Right.
In this one, they actually got into some more of the game of, hey, well, how are you going to approach this aspect of Crowfall? How are you going to approach this aspect of Crowfall? And, it did. It all fell under the umbrella of, what are some common pitfalls that you can avoid if you're trying to go into designing, developing, and funding a game.
I mean, I thought a lot of this stuff was kind of interesting, like, the metrics. Gordon loves metrics, so he was putting a lot of metrics out there, a lot of graphs, a lot of numbers, which is very interesting to kind of figure out with, how it actually Kickstarter works and the timing of everything else like that. I had actually forgotten that there was a countdown timer on the Crowfall page, and that there was like a month or two or something like that where we didn't even know what Crowfall was. And that was so long ago. I totally forgot about that when Todd brought that up.
It was so funny. I was man, what was I on? I think it was either Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, and one of those little banner pop-ups came on, and it was like, "Play Candy Crush now," and I was like, Here's a great idea. They should. This is what they should have done if they're going to really try and use a lot of these buzzwords with Game of Thrones, Eve, Star Wars Galaxies. They should have been like, don't play Candy Crush, play to win. I mean, it's all about the cute little things that you have.
Well, I mean, you brought up Game of Thrones, and that was a topic of last week's show that we talked a little bit about. We didn't have too much information. However, you got Todd aside, and you were kind of talking about stuff. I don't know how it came up, but you were pretty excited about it when you called me after the show or after the meetup, and he said that there's going to be a little bit more about the Fealty system, and obviously not any details because I don't think it's developed yet or fully fleshed out in game. It's more like on paper. But right now, all we know about is the Fealty system is how it deals with the Eternal Kingdoms and how people can do this, that, and the other for relics and artifacts, that type of thing. But he mentioned it was going to be part of the campaign also.
Yep.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So this is one of the big things that I was championing in my own way was, they brought up, the game's going to be like Game of Thrones, and Todd sat there and even in this meeting he said, we threw out some buzzwords where these are the sorts of concepts that we want to build Crowfall around, and he's like, but we should probably go back, we should probably change the tagline, Eve, Game of Thrones meets Eve. We should probably really reevaluate that. And afterwards I said, I was sitting there and I was talking with him and I said, I've been thinking about this and I've been explaining the game in the ways that I understand it. And I said, the way that Game of Thrones can really play into Crowfall is if you actually take a fealty system and somehow implement that into the campaigns. And I followed that up with, is that what you guys are attempting to do? And he said, yeah, definitely. We want to have some sort of system in there where that is where the backstabbing is going to be. That's where alliances will be formed, where guilds will rise and fall. And you really start to get that kind of feel of, hey, everything's great, you came in, we fed you, and now we're just going to kill you because it's beneficial to us. That made me really happy. And
it's going to be an extra dimension to the game other than just kind of.
But
we talked about this.
Yeah,
already.
But the other thing he stressed is this is a game that they're going to build step by step.
Sure.
And we started a thread on the forums, and we're going to touch on it about player expectations. But just a prelude to that is this game is going to be a step by step development.
Valor, can you turn and look to your right? Because when you do, let's say, just talk and lounge, because now it looks like we're talking at each other, kind of like the Brady Bunch, see? And it's like now we're having beers. Now your face is off screen. Now let's move.
Okay, I gotta stay over here. Let me move.
In-show production. This is professional,
high quality stuff. Okay.
So now, Lakes is not in between us right now, so we can actually have an enjoyable conversation without his hat getting in the way.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's. I mean. We didn't learn too much. We learned kind of where they're going to kind of stretch their muscles a little bit in the game. I really like how the fealty system is going to expand into the campaign, so it's actually going to have some sense of I guess, weight in the game world rather than just your fancy pants EK type of thing. It's actually going to mean something on your
Well,
day-to-day
and
play,
it
which is great.
might not be tied to what's in the field, what's in the EKs. It might be. Yeah, there's so many different ways they can take it, and they're just not there yet. And so, without speculating
Sure.
and making us look bad and setting them up for success or failure, depending on how
Yep.
they end up doing it. It is one of those things that, guys, this is where the meat and potatoes of Game of Thrones
Sure.
can really take hold.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely stoked about it to kind of see
Yeah.
what more details and how it kind of affects the gameplay of your everyday player.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on. I want to save the player expectation part for last. We agreed on that, right? Yeah,
We
okay.
agreed on
Because
it.
I think that's the juicy part of it because I really like playing with the community. There's some really great people out there. Let's talk about today's update. And we didn't really have too much time to really kind of sink our teeth into it. I mean, not that we had that many details, but it did kind of give us a little bit more clarification on what the hell these thralls are going to be.
Yeah.
So, Val, why don't you tell the audience, if they haven't really read it, what thralls are? And what
Okay,
they're
so
gonna do.
thralls are going to be the souls of people in the world of Crowfall who have died and have not been able to pass on to the afterlife. There's something keeping them there. They're stuck in limbo, and they have to do something or other to be able to pass on to the next realm. And I don't believe this has any sort of bearing on whether or not a character, like somebody you're actually playing, dies. I think this is just the lore behind
That's just a backstory.
the whole system.
Makes
So
people happy.
yeah, it is. And so the ways that they can earn their way into the next realm is through servitude, which you can capture them and they can work for you and earn their keep. And there's a lot of speculation about that system, which we can talk about, but that is the premise of what they are. So they will be your merchants, they will be your crafting NPCs, they will be your shops or whatever other things you can bind them into stones to improve your weapons. They're kind of going to be everything.
Let's stop here. Let's
Yeah.
go one by one on these because I
Okay.
really love to talk. I want to talk
Yeah.
about this and what kind of ramifications we can have with this
Yeah.
compared to some other games that we've seen. The question was on the update, question 3, do all thralls serve the same function in a game? And the answer was obviously no. Valor started going over a couple of them. The first one, they serve as vendors managing your sales. I think that's pretty straightforward. We've seen that in a lot of Korean games. I know the first time I really kind of saw it and dived deep into it was in Aeon, because I never played Final Fantasy XI, so Aeon was my first kind of showing of that. It basically is you load an NPC, it stays there, it spams a message, and you can list things for sale. So it's like your own personal auction house, except for players have to walk up to it and engage it like an NPC merchant. And that's essentially it. And what players did was they just gathered in a certain area and they dropped their vendor. Sometimes there was hundreds of them in the same spot. Sometimes people were clever enough to drop a vendor with a bunch of pots or food or whatever in a place where people are grinding and made an extra buck.
Yeah.
But I suspect that some vendors might be able to be killed in this game, and maybe that might not be the best thing in the world. But I mean, I don't think there's anything else to go on beyond that. It's a pretty cool function.
Yeah.
If they can be killed and destroyed, which I think they probably will be, since everything else in this game can be killed and
Well,
destroyed.
some of them definitely can be because they're guards.
Sure, and that's the next one. That's the one I really want to get into. Is
Well,
the
let's
guardsmen.
talk about I mean, you talked about how there's going to be tons of them in space. Their system is that every building will have a certain number of slots that you can set a thrall. And so
We're talking about fortifications and guards now, right?
well, no, I mean even in your EKs.
I'm
they're
talking about in the campaign too, though.
Well, yeah, I mean
Vendors,
even in the campaigns, I'm sure, and that'll always be. They said that it's going to be micro and macro level, so they're taking the same concept and doing it for the little individual things that you place inside buildings all the way up to it's the same system they're going to use for building onto your EKs.
Right.
So both are going to have if you save up and you build this big awesome fort, you're going to be able to put a lot of thralls in there. If you just quickly build a little keep, then you might only be able to put a little bit,
Just
a
little
few
keep.
thralls in there.
Just a small one.
Just a small one, EDB keep. Relatively speaking, maybe a fort would be smaller than a keep.
Yep.
Either way, these are going to be some of those things that people are going to get to figure out.
I got an idea here. Crowfall's not going to be pay to win, right? They don't want to do that.
That's the
right?
goal.
Would you consider it pay to win if you can buy a Thrall vendor that has more slots in it to sell stuff? So let's say if a Thrall vendor can only sell 5 items or 10 items or whatever, and if you can micro pay to double the slots of a Thrall vendor, is that considered pay to win?
Not if you can unlock those slots via in-game gold. It is an advancement, but you are not.
So only 40% of the population will whine about it, not 80.
Exactly.
Yes,
I mean,
right?
not. It won't be the majority, but there will still be a large segment. I think that just in general, any even non-confrontational things, you're going to have a minimum of 40% of the people upset. At least.
Is pay to win only? Could that be pay to win as far as economics? Because I mean, this is my what if for the show. I think this counts, I guess.
Man, I kind of wish we had Onrez on here, right?
Right.
What I foresee there is that it's going to be an advantage early on. As people are trying to build their EKs, they're trying to build their economic empire. The more you can sell, the more money you can make at any one time. And so if you're actually able to create the items that people want and have them in quantity, you're going to be building gold faster. And so it'll definitely put you on a faster incline than somebody who's having to build up or promote their own vendors with more slots.
It'll be interesting how robust the economy is in player interaction that way. Let's get on to the one I really want to talk about again, and you touched about the guards. Because I thought Guild Wars 2 would have been so much better if they could have done something like this in their game. Because they had NPCs in their keeps, but they just got flattened by people, and they were road bumps essentially. Maybe not even road bumps. But being able to build fortifications and then put thralls in them, maybe some really badass ones in there, and it's kind of an idea out of WildStar's idea for what was the Warzone? What were they called? The Gilvey
War plots.
War plots. Where you could put like raid bosses in there.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do something like here's another what if. I'm pissing
well,
myself
I mean,
off
it's not even entirely a what if though, because I mean, this is effectively what they're
asking for. Describing, right?
They talked about it. And so for me, what I see is that this will be an interesting import-export. Now you get to balance
thralls.
Now you get to balance bringing in thralls.
I like that.
Because say you were able to capture this big badass boss.
They are inventory items.
And they're inventory items. And you want to bring that in to protect because first thing you want to do is you want to find a good location, you want to build some sort of fortification. And you want to drop in a nice, defense there so that while you're out doing your stuff, 2 people can't come in and just take over. And so you bring that in, and that's all you bring in, and then you have to go out and figure everything else out there in the campaign. So I mean, what they're building is, I would assume they know, is ridiculously complicated with their import-export system and I've said it in the past, and I'll continue to say it. How they balance imports and exports will make or break this game.
It's going to be big. I mean, that's a major thing. That's the part of the persistence that's really going to matter. Now, I really like the idea of using thralls as guardsmen or people that can protect your keep, because no matter how big your guild is, somebody's got to sleep at some point.
Yeah.
And it really sucks. Like, I understand the whole Bane stones and all that stuff from, Shadow Bane and all that other stuff, and it kind of gives you windows that makes it fair. But everything can't be behind like a set time to fight or whatever. You got to be able to fight and break stuff whenever you want. So maybe you can set up some fortification somewhere around a mine or whatever, wherever you're building stuff and thralls can go. Hopefully they give somebody a challenge as far as taking it over.
I would like to see that. One of the things that has been disappointing to me is how easy mobs are to defeat.
Yep.
I mean, unless it is impossible, for any decent-sized force to defeat them, like the gigantic mob bosses, or it takes a raid and people standing in particular spots. Maybe not that far, but a monster that's going to take 10, 15 people to really go out there and beat. And if you're able to put the resources, or that is something that was really important, and you put that there, make it difficult to overcome. Don't make it just, oh, one guy's sitting there with a bow perched in a particular place where it can't
just
attack.
Kills all of them, and you're
and he's just like, yeah. I mean, come on. Really?
At bare minimum, I hope that just throw out some stupid numbers. Let's say 20 people are attacking a keep, and you only have 3 people online, but you have really good thralls. Hopefully, those 3 people can give the other people a fight, as long as you have the really good stuff equipped. All right, let's go on. Other stuff that thralls can do is guardsmen, and you bind spirits. So you can scrap to runes and weapons and armor. So it's basically an enchantment system that you would see in any other game. I think. I don't think there's anything fancy or different or crazy that they're going to do about this, other than going out in the world and collecting, which is, I think, is probably the most interesting thing, is where you're getting these things. It gives you another way to customize your character, which I think is pretty awesome.
Well, it also gives a reason to kill these monsters that they've said have very little import on the overall game, because now this is more of a quote-unquote PvE aspect, or a where you would want to farm them for whatever things. But you don't have to. I mean, you don't need thralls for a lot of things.
Well, it kind of reminds me of League of Legends, which is not a PvE game. I think no one would call it a PvE game unless you're playing against bots. And it's like the Baron or Dragon.
Yes, exactly.
Because you have these big raid bosses, and they're points of contention. Everybody's going to want the thrall that possibly drops from it, so it gives it points where PvP can happen. It gives reasons for PvP to happen.
Well, and they're important, and they're important enough that people will fight over them.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. And I'd like to see more of the Baron type mobs in relation to power to players, as opposed to the dragons, because the dragons, you get one guy who's just souped up and he goes in there, singles it, solos it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there's got to be ones you can solo. There's got to be ones that 20 people or whatever.
Exactly.
So I can't wait to see what kind of stats, what they're going to do with this type of thing. Hopefully they make I don't want them rare. I want people to be able to grab and have fun with them. But I also would like to see like really, really rare ones that maybe there's only one allowed to exist on the server. Yeah, because that's another thing that they could do, and this is just something that, again, another thing that popped in my head, is you can't make rare or unique items in MMOs, because what if one guy has got the super sword of gods from a raid dungeon, and isn't it cool? He's the only one in the world that has it. Wouldn't that be great? And he never logs in again, and you never see it. And that's kind of stupid. But because campaigns get destroyed, maybe you can have one of a kind armor and weapons and stuff like that. So I hope they do the same thing with Thralls. I think that would make it really, really interesting. Anything else on Thralls that we haven't covered? I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. I think it's a cross between the Old Republic companions, the WoW garrisons, the Aeon vendors, with a little bit of special sauce with the guards.
Well, the one thing that I was talking with Dave Greco, one of the art guys, I said is, when I think Thralls, I don't think of dwarfs. I don't think of centaurs. I don't think of Ganetians. I think of just a regular old, what you see in every other game, where they're just more human and, pretty bland. That's one thing that I think is going to be nice, is they'll add some flavor to the game.
Well, to me, when I see Thrall, I usually get the definition of just a slave or somebody that serves. Yeah. I think. I don't really think... some people, I guess, have that connotation with, like, a little person, or like a gnome or a dwarf.
There was somebody actually brought up the fact that they weren't very supportive of the idea of slaves in game. I saw that Pan referenced that, and somebody applauded her on it.
Okay, we're gonna have an episode, like I said, Mystery Science 3000. We're gonna do it. We have to get it. We have to get the production right on it. But we definitely want to do it. I want to take a time out here before we go to the main thrush of the throw. I want to plug our new site, cf.gg. It's all the daily news for Crowfall. This show gets posted on there. If you don't want to go to my site, you can always find them on our YouTube channel. Make sure you do like and follows and all the Twitch and social media above. We like numbers. Please leave any review you want. You can call us a bunch of bastards, but give us favorable reviews. So do all of that. Lakes took care of iTunes. If they are still not showing up there, please let us know. And we'll get that. And if we're missing any specific social media or broadcasting site, please let us know. crownsandcrows@gmail.com with your questions, comments, and everything else like that. We'll get it up to you. So the more ways you can listen to us, we'll do it just for you. It's pretty easy for us to do that. So, you know what? I'll save one other question for the end of the show. But the topic you put up on the forums yesterday was essentially player expectations. CF won't be any fun. And again, you seem to piss people off with that title. You hurt a lot of people's feelings, and we actually had a very good conversation going. And the crux of the I'll leave it to you. It's your topic. Why don't you talk about what you mean by that?
Okay, so I left it that vague for a purpose, because people are going to get upset. They're going to get upset about the state of Crowfall when they first start playing. There's going to be some backlash. There's going to be some consternation. And so I said, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get that out into the forums. So I said I left the title as it was. It was intended to get people...
You don't have to defend yourself.
It was intended to get people riled up, and
it did.
And I think that's important. I think that it...
people know who we are now. We're important.
People know who we are. But for me, it's more than just marketing. I have a passion for Crowfall. I know you do as well. And for me, I don't want to see Crowfall go through the same thing that H1Z1 went through. And I think that we can point to that as the biggest example for how managing player expectations is an important thing. Because if you don't, you're giving money back to people because they're pissed off.
Yep.
I mean, and that's effectively what they did. So, the responses there were actually pretty good. Everyone, of course, responded with, "Oh, I've betaed before."
Well, let's preface the conversation here with, in case you missed last week's show or the interview, there's going to be no NDA whatsoever. So if you can play the game at home, you can stream it, you can take pictures. And Gordon kind of referenced this during their meetup, where he said something to the likes of, it's very, very dangerous. We're very, very crazy. But if we put something out there for you to play, you can show it. So obviously the updates probably on the alpha servers aren't going to be fast and furious, but they're going to be interesting. And I think, we're in the age now where you can buy early access. You can play greenlit games. You can play broken games, whatever. And it's just like, hey, we said it was alpha, and then people's like, they essentially give them their money, expect a game, and it really doesn't work, and it gets bad word of mouth. And what Crowfall needs to do, and what kind of this thread is all about, is you have to be able to say, we're developing the game, it's going to be broken, and just watch us build the game from the ground up. It's like a reality show, and you have to pound that in every single week and day that this is how it's going to do it. So, Val, why don't you go over some of the expectations from some of the serious conversation we were having in that thread?
Okay, the expectations that were really laid out there is, and this was part of more or less spawned from a conversation I had at the meetup. When Crowfall launches, don't expect to be able to play a Ganetian. Don't expect to be able to play a Centaur. And I'm looking into the camera because I want to speak to your soul. Don't expect to be able to play what you want to play. All right? When they go into pre-alpha, when they go into alpha, they're going to have developed what they have time to develop. And so when you get into the game, don't get upset when you say, "Oh, wait, all this concept art's done. Why isn't that in game?"
Obviously,
I watched him work on the Ganetian's belt for Christ's sake.
There's a video,
he live streamed it. I watched him do it. Yeah, why isn't this in game? It's because the art and the concept art completely different. All right, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be testing systems, and these are the problems people are going to have. And people, there's been countless responses in here where real alpha is a pain in the ass, bug-ridden ride, but it also gives you a great look at mechanics if you can stomach the ride. And that's by somebody from Dubanka from the Burning Horde. A lot of people get it, but there's going to be 2 to 3 times more people who don't get it. And
what's the people logging on to Twitch for the first time, checking out the game, or checking out YouTube channels for Crowfall gameplay and seeing this crazy stuff? I mean, that's what Camelot Unchained is trying to do, even though it kind of irritates me with their old school alpha title on it. Why don't you just call it an alpha and get your marketing message properly? But I don't blame them for it because it's the same kind of attitude. They're showing, they finally showed some of their gameplay, and it's like this. We're only showing the tech demo for the engine. Well, that's all fine and good, and you know it seemed to run fine, whatever. And you can't really, I'm not going to base any any impressions off that, other than hey, they got something working, good for them.
Yep.
But I think their marketing has to be proper, where this is alpha. We're building the game from scratch. It's a reality show, and I think they need to term it that way rather than just say alpha access and let it go.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you know, the way you do that is you have to have some sort of real interaction with the people who will be streaming the game. And you know, I brought this up at the meetup. You know, it's important to know, you know, what is going to be the message presented by the people playing the game to their followers, to the people interested in Crowfall, because you don't want you know, somebody for, like, was it Soggy Biscuit, the British dude? You don't want him, you know, buying $10,000 you know, backer, and then going on there and talking how bad the game is and how disappointed he is. Yes, that $10,000 was really nice, but the negative press is going to be so much worse, and it just isn't worth it. And so, you know, they've got all the people who are interested, and you know, they've got all the people who really, really want to play the game, and you know, tempering those expectations and saying, guys, the game that you want to play is not the game you're going to get to test.
All right, well, I think we need to take time out, and I think you need to address the dude that's screaming at you because of for a stupid title on a stupid message board.
All right,
so apparently it ruined its day. That you trolled him all afternoon with the forum thread that he had to click. He had to his mouse like moved all by itself. It was a pop-up ad.
Dragon, you're killing me here. So I don't know if you guys have realized. We have a bit of a different approach to things. The threads, and our approach to the threads is, yes, we want to get people talking. We want people to click on it, and having an uninteresting thread is just not going to help. I do see the value in just simply coming out and saying, you know, Crowns and Crows episode 9, here's our discussion topics, let's talk about them.
Yeah, that gets nothing.
And I would do that. But you know, the concerns that I have about that are, one, are people just going to sit there and talk crap about our podcast because that's what people do online, is just talk shit to people, and that accomplishes nothing. Or two, you know, the thread just moves to off topic, which I also don't want, because again, nobody's going to sit there. And so this is the balance that I try to strike, where it is, guys, I want people to come in here and have a discussion, because there's not a lot of information coming out of Artcraft right now. We need to you know, discuss what the people want, what people are talking about. That is the situation. So that's why we've taken that approach. You know what? Next week I'll give it a shot, and we will see how it goes. If it goes no different, then, well, we'll just do whatever we want to do.
Look, we put on an entertaining show. I mean, this is not like a news program. I'm not wearing a suit and tie. We're both drinking beer right now.
That was the other fun part, where someone was telling me about, you know, professional journalism and how that's what he wanted to see. I was like, man, professional journalism is boring. I hate to break it to you, but if it was entertaining, it would be a lot more popular. If there's something important that I want to know, if we're reporting, you know, news about Crowfall, yeah, you're going to get news about Crowfall,
and it's going to be professionally done. If we're doing a news part of the show when things are going on, we'll be like Fox News. There'll be the editorial section, and then there'll be the news section. I'm kidding. That's stupid. But essentially, we want to be fun. I mean, the whole idea. People take this shit so seriously, and I hate cursing on the show, but you know, so be it. And look, it gets people to click on the thread. It gets people talking. And while they're there, they might have a serious conversation. While they're there, they might complain that, oh my God, why do I have to see another thread again about this? So I don't want to harp on anybody in particular, but it's what did bring himself up on Twitch chat. So you know what,
and lesson learned. We're going to take a slightly different approach next week. We'll see how it goes. Wanted to give a quick shout out to Bearded Gamer, formerly known as.
What is he known as now?
He's known as Diminishing Returns.
Why?
He wanted to
Did he
rebrand
shave?
himself. You know,
Diminishing
hey.
return. Get it? No.
But yeah. So make sure that you know he's a good guy. I met him at the meetup as well. So
Oh, there he is.
yeah. So by all means, guys, give him a look up. He's going to be playing Crowfall, and he's got a group of buddies too.
Sweet.
So yeah, look forward to killing you.
All right, there we go.
All right, Jake. Get us back on track, buddy.
Well, I mean, the whole thing. I think we kind of touched on the alpha expectations. Now, let's talk about our own expectations. Day one in alpha. Okay, it starts June 15th. And it's now, let's say it's beginning of May. They say first alpha is going to be June 15th. So you're about a month and a half away. What are your expectations when you to play the game? When you first download it and log in?
What I expect is a relatively blank canvas without a lot of refined edges.
What do you mean by that? I mean, I need details. Like, what do you expect to see?
Oh, okay. So
not like your feelings.
You know, we saw them working on one of the towns in the video. I expect to see that.
Sure.
You know, I expect to see because it's the Unity system, and in their meetup where I was live tweeting it, they talked about it. They talked about how fast they're able to build stuff based off of the systems they've got there. And so,
let me interject. If you're really interested in that, go really check out Voxel Farm. They have a lot of great procedural content generation. They can generate ruins and abandon this and stuff like that. Really pretty stuff. But they can't, like Valor pointed out, those towns. Those have to be handmade. Or built anyway. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so they are. They're built. I think the housing module, because what's her name, the model who did all the interviews. Natalie? She interviewed somebody as he was kind of fleshing out one of the towns, and so I expect to see that. I expect to be able to run around, interact with some of the core NPCs.
Get your skills going.
I expect to have. I don't know, maybe 10 to 20% of the skills in there, maybe 10% of the skills.
Rough skills to just bash people with, type of thing.
This is just experience from past games where you don't ever start off. There's another game that I'm playing, and I mean, you have all the basic skills, but you're supposed to be able to upgrade them.
Yep.
And I'd say half the skills don't even have all of their upgrades done. So. You get through the end of the game and you're like, oh, I should have all of these upgraded skills, and you don't. So there you go. All right, so Blixtev, there goes my only hope for a gray box world.
Oh,
yep, sorry.
Sorry about that. Well, here's what I expect. I expect the download to be slow as hell because you don't have the servers up yet. So it's going to be a 50, 60 gig install maybe right off the bat. And it's going to take me about 30 hours to download because there's going to be 500 people downloading it. So I'm going to be angry because it starts on the 15th. I'm not going to be able to play to the 18th. You're going to log in. There's going to be one game server, one game campaign. The Eternal Kingdoms are not going to be there. And you're going to be able to pick between a couple different archetypes, and there's going to be basic combat skills there. And I think Mr. Blair is going to be testing out a lot of his animations and attack sequences. They're going to basically, I think, be going to be testing how the server client infrastructure works, if there's any lag, if there's any packet loss, how many people bashing together from all parts of the country and the world interact with each other. It's only going to last a couple hours once a week, like on the weekends type of thing.
Well, and I don't know how much they're going to get into early on.
What do you mean?
The stability.
Well, I mean, most of the early alpha stuff is because when
mechanics.
When you build an MMO, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that people don't realize. You have your client that you have to design. You have your a database essentially where you pull all the data from, all the stats from, and then you have the network, the servers. That everything has to talk, and you have to make sure everything connects. Can you create an account? Can you log in? That's what they're going to be testing too. I mean,
we're talking. I mean, we're going to be testing out this week whether or not we can actually get our Kickstarter accounts synced up with the forums. Hey, maybe Blixtev can talk on that. How's that looking so far?
I haven't got my email yet.
No, neither have I. I was like, oh, I guess I'm low on the priority list.
Whatever.
Those streamers, those guys. But you know, I mean, what I think they're going to be working on, they're going to be working on animations.
I bet you the Golden Glory guys got their email.
I bet, right? We just need to send them some coffee.
You never trust a bunch of merchants. Stab in the back.
Yeah, but I think that we're going to have they're going to be working on animations. They're going to be working on is the world stable? Are people following through when they try and do a particular skill? They're going to be testing some of this stuff, but I mean it's going to be a long test process because they're going to have to figure out speed, player speed, mount speed, a lot of these things. Yeah,
one of the biggest things with Unity and building voxels and stuff like that, that's really voxels are very, very resource intensive because there's certain typically when you build an MMO and the client renders the scene in front of you, if you're a certain distance away, it renders a flat 2D image. If it renders an item that's close by, it's a 3D image. So it has to render all the sides. But if it's a distance, it's basically a picture. And then with voxels, that tends to go away a little bit unless you code voxels to create 2D images. So there's that whole aspect. So you have to now play around with draw distances, how much loads in the server or not. Voxels are actually items in the game. So typically, and it happened in Guild Wars 2, you couldn't load 1,000 different people in one area because people started disappearing.
Gosh,
when you play graphic-intensive games, you have that pop-in distance where, like, oh shit, there's 1,000 trees. I didn't see them a second ago. Voxels, you have to have a way to create that depth because you have to, if you could dig through something, whatever you dig through has to be there. So now, not only do you just have a flat ground and a gray box underneath it, as Thomas just said, there has to be depth there. And that has to be procedurally generated every single time because they're also doing healing like the EverQuest Next people were talking about too. So they're going to have to test all those variables, how the load of the server affects all of that stuff. I'm probably talking out of my ass here, but I mean, when I played around, I'm not a coder, I'm not a game designer by any means, but I played around with Unity. I had some people explain to me like how things work, and there's like wire meshes, like a voxel. Like typically, if you ever jump on like a house or a rock or something, and you're actually standing like 1 foot above the rock.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's a big thing in like Guild Wars 1.
Yeah, basically, there's a physical box that they built around it. It has the 5 different sides, and that's what you can walk on. And a voxel, on the other hand, is a bunch of little boxes. And typically, if you would stand on it, you could stand on one layer here. Where's my camera? One layer here, and then like one layer here. Do you have to build out the wire mesh or whatever? So I'm boring people. I'm boring people with
other camera, by the way.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, I've got 2 cameras running here in my studio. But long story short, there's a lot of technical things that we're going to be seeing that they have to do, and performance is probably going to be dog shit at first too, because this is very early. You just started building the game, and I think we might see alpha probably within the next 6 months or so. I would imagine if we're going to be launching in a year and a half from now, or a year and 3/4, and people have to be ready for a game that barely runs. Doesn't run on you might not even run on your computer. You might have been run out and pledged a $500 pledge, and your computer's from 6 years ago, and it was crappy then.
Yeah.
Dude, go back to playing on Congregate.com or something.
Someone
like
asked Todd. This was back in the Kickstarter, and he was very upfront about it. Hey, is this the type of game that I'll be able to play with an older machine? And he just said no. People are going to have to upgrade to play this game. I'm not saying that everyone, I have a relatively recent computer with a pretty good graphics card. I should be okay. But yeah, if you're playing on a 3 or 4 year old computer, get ready.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think there'll be. You don't need a computer from like. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you're gonna. I think if you have a computer is 2 or 3 years old now, you should. And it was decent. It wasn't like a cheapo computer. Like you hand built it. It was really nice for the last couple years. By December 2016, it should be just fine for it, I think. But if you got one of those low end ones or a laptop, you're gonna have to upgrade. I'd have to imagine at that point. But I don't want to scare people away. I don't think it's gonna be like monstrous or anything else like that. But
no, I don't think it's going to be Crisis. I don't think
definitely not Crisis.
Benchmark's going to be using it for all of their testing.
I mean, if you looked at the graphics, not that the graphics are final and stuff like that, but there's no complex shading, there's no complex lighting, there's and they have that people call it cartoony look or whatever you want to call it. It's not a realistic look. That helps with performance as well, and I think it should be fine. So
Yeah.
at least if you were a fan of Vanguard a couple years ago or half a decade ago, and people went out and bought like a $3,000 computer to play Vanguard, yeah, just don't be that guy. Or at least if you are that guy, don't ever admit it ever again. Please.
Yeah, you better not be running Windows Vista with 2 gigs of RAM, complaining about the fact that you just spent $500 on Crowfall and you can't play it. Well, but
yeah. I want Thomas. I wish I could get Thomas on the baffle. Did we talk about this last week? How did we not get this done? I want to talk about his comments from the meetup show.
I tried doing that, and they just have to be really they have to be really careful with how much interaction they get into, because it's too easy for one person to say one little thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, guys, you heard it.
I don't want to talk about Crowfall particularly, but his comments about design elements of games that we've left behind, and I really wanted to touch up on this on the meetup section of the show, but I'll bring it back here, and maybe ties in with little expectations as far as design element. What kind of design elements from back in the day? I don't know how far back in the day you go, but let's say back pre-WoW, that people have forgotten that you want to bring back to Crowfall.
Oh man. For me, my back in the day gaming was MUDs, just because it's something that I could play without my parents knowing about it.
Do you go far back as Shadows as Eusiberus on the Sierra Inn network?
No,
1992,
no.
baby.
I never played any of the big ones.
2400 baud modem.
I think, shoot, they're all custom that I played, so they're fairly.
That was actually a graphical game, by the way.
Oh, really?
1992.
Jeez. But hey, we know who the old guy is here.
Google that one.
Things that I'd like to see. I would like to see. They talked about the whole Shadow Bane in the sieges. That's going to be in there. I mean, a lot of it's already been covered.
Well, let's rehash what Thomas said, and you can riff off that. Item restrictions on gear. Get rid of them. Why did we put them there in the first place? It's all about balancing the theme park. And I think here's a good point. Let's talk about that. They talked about when you're building a game, you're building content consumption versus designing systems for consumption. I think they put it, or system driven versus content driven. It was the exact wording that they had. And where Warcraft is content driven, you need to have 500 hours of content, and I think he was playing City of Heroes. He was mentioning during the show they had to have 350 hours of content, so they stretched out the leveling process. If you give somebody a level 50 dagger at level 1 and they're able to bypass 30 hours of content in 20 minutes because they can just one-shot everything, that ruins the aspect of the game. However, in Crowfall, they don't give a damn like how fast you kill stuff. Just go kill stuff. So if you can get a weapon, you get a weapon. It's
the difference between players creating the game that they want to play versus a design team having to do it. And so you're right.
Gameplay.
Emergent game.
Player emergence. Yep. So what other things do you want to see like that bring back? Do you have anything to? I'm springing this. We didn't even rehearse this.
You're hitting me from
brain.
Out of nowhere on this. One of the things that I'd like to see, I would like to see the ability to have systems for one-on-one tournaments and small team tournaments. And this is not to take over the development and design of Crowfall, but allowing players to be able to use systems in place to run their own tournaments, because that is such a big element.
Talking about like the old EverQuest type of tournaments you used to have. Okay.
Yep. And it would allow players to really set up a game within a game.
Sure.
If say you guys really don't enjoy doing faction versus faction, but you want to hop on the drags, but you just don't want to be like out there ganking whoever you see and being ganked by 20 people. You can set up your own little player community in a campaign. You can run it and then hop into the next campaign when it comes up, and continue doing that. And allow people to create their own. You
could role play as a gladiator.
You could. I mean, hey, role playing.
I like that. But now here's one that I would like to see, and it happened in a string of MUDs I used to play back in the '90s when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
if anybody's out there listening, it was the Owen Emlyn style MUDs, Midpoint Void, Lands of Chaos, etc., etc. But there's probably 500 people on the planet that ever played those games, since there was only 40 people at a time that played them. But in any case, and it's actually alive and well today in Dungeons and Dragons Online. The system is called remorting, I guess. Remortification. Well, everybody had different. You'd hit max level, and you would spend a bunch of resources, and you get reset to level 1, but your player power increases. So you get this game. You had skill slots and spell slots that you can learn stuff in, and every time you remorted, you got the ability to have more skills and more spells at your disposal, or had access to at the same time. Your stats increased, your hit points got stronger, and if you could do it as many times as you want, but every time you did it, your experience per level increased exponentially. So the grind got longer and longer. You kept people playing. Dungeons and Dragons has you do it, allows you to add stats and gain points and stuff like that.
One of the things that they're taking into consideration is, I mean, if people played Oblivion, I mean, what was the worst way to play Oblivion? Go through and do everything, because the more powerful you became, the more powerful the mobs became. Sure. And sure enough, Crowfall's doing the same thing with their seasons, and mobs becoming more deadly. So yeah, you got to get to those victory conditions early.
But here's the thing. I think how it could work in Crowfall. There's another giant what if, but I mean, it's some system I'd like to bring in. 3 what ifs in one show. I think we just have to scrap this and go home. But let's say you hit a certain threshold of skills. Let's say certain skills had points. You put a number system or whatever way to categorize everything. You're able to reset all of your skills back to, or wipe them out, but your character has a base increased hit points, or you gain access to new archetypes, or you're able to blend 2 archetypes together. I don't know. Something like gets you more powerful early on, but allows people to constantly build their character. So maybe it's a little bit of a long-term vertical progression, and I know they don't really want to do it, but maybe you can only do it after playing like a year or something like that. It gives you something to like kind of look forward to, especially if the skill system and the archetype system and the runestones and everything else are not fully fleshed out quite a bit in the first part. So there's my what if. There's my dream, my dream. And we're about to hit the hour mark. I just want to throw this out there. I've been looking for a way to do a call-in show, because as time moves on, and as much talk radio as I listen to, whether it's sports or anything else, is you need community interaction, and there's only so much of us going back and forth about whatever
Our first step was the forums. I mean, you're trying to interact with people on the forums,
right? But I got to figure out a system of how people can call in, and we can pick up. And I'm thinking that we're going to run event or GameVox server or TeamSpeak server and have people log in. You're going to be muted, and we move you into a channel, and you can speak your piece. So if you guys are interested in participating on a situation like that, crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Show your voice of support. Show it in chat. Show it in the comments. Put it in our Valor, if you want to link our thread on the official forums. Voice your support there for that. I think that'd be really fun, especially on content light weeks.
If you've done it before, let us know what you did, and it's something that we can look into as well.
Because I would love to interact with people. It makes for a good show, and there's only so much you can do by reading community questions every single week, and us going back and forth between them, because it can get really repetitive at times. Val, did you take a look at the community questions now that I brought it up? Do you have them up?
The ones that. I haven't seen anything. I took a look in our
I'm gonna bring it up right now.
Our email, and I didn't see anything, but I know we had a couple in queue.
You want to bring them up? You want me to bring them up?
Go for it. The I was looking at the forums actually today. One of the things we want to start doing is kind of touching on some of the big threads that go up on the forums, just because it's fun. It's fun looking at what people want, because it's not always.
Let's save this for the after party, man.
Oh, you want to save this for?
Let's save this for the after party.
All right. We'll stick to questions, because there's a particular GIF that sums up one of these threads perfectly, and it was the first response. So
I don't think we have any questions for the topics that we have here, and I'm just gonna go and bring up. Let's see. See, you're usually prepared for this stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
here's one from Morgan Rothrock. I'm hopefully that's not your real name, but if I did, I'm sorry. But that's all I had to work with. The question is, should there be triggered events, environmental or otherwise, volcanoes, earthquakes, that type of thing? I think that's a great idea.
I thought this was a fantastic idea. People are wanting RNG. Here's the thought that I had is that as the seasons turn, the landscape shifts, which I know Artcraft would love to have to put in a lot more work and create 4 maps for every campaign. But having cliffs erupt up out of the ground,
That's
and
major stuff.
yeah, if your fortifications are built on that line, oh shoot, I just said if, but it would it would create, there you go. It would be a lot of fun. Weather effects actually was something that just got brought up. That would be another piece, but staying on topic. I think that'd be really cool. Volcanoes,
like
things
that
like
one.
that, and they could, that would be something that I would think they could just put a point in and set a timer for. When this season turned, this happens, and whatever's around it takes whatever damage or however they want to handle that.
The tech is out there. I mean, Rift.
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's any more revolutionary than allowing players to take magical hammers and break down walls.
It should be in there, but maybe that's for like year number 2, or if they actually get Star Citizen money, maybe they could kind of toss that in there. Who knows?
Yes.
But I think we're going to end this right now. Remember, go to cf.gg every day for your daily Crowfall news and notes, where we put on everybody else's podcasts on there. We link them. Crowfall Radio just had a new episode out that I missed that just went up today. They don't even know who I am, but we'll forgive them for that. It's a pretty good show. Twitters are all down there in the bottom. Follow us at Crowns and Crows. Valor hits up the Twitter every single day. So send us your questions at crownsandcrows@gmail.com. You can follow me at jdodge80. You can follow Valor at Born in Valor. I think that's it, Valor. Did I miss anything?
Follow us here on Twitch, follow us on YouTube,
down,
subscribe to our channel on our thread on the forums. You'll get updates anytime anything interesting happens there. I do my best to try and stay on top of stuff. So that's all we've got for that. Golden Glory there, taking an extended break with sickness and family, but they'll be on here in a little while, so get better, guys, and have fun. And we're just going to sit here, kick it, and talk Crowfall games and whatever else you guys bring up. So
we'll see you next week.
Hang around.